Well, let me say 95, 98. You know, so you have that, right? Um, or sometimes you get I get this quite regularly. Young fella comes in, I have a problem. What's the problem? How old are you? 24, 25, 22. Um, you know, and I said, no, what's your problem? Well, it ain't standing up. So sometimes you have fellas and they come in and you say, well, you got to eat properly. You got to exercise. You're not exercising. You spend your time and you think whole day going, chit, 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 chit. You have to get out. You have to get out and exercise. And you're talking, and they wait for you to talk 3-4 minutes and tell them what to do, anything, and then they come back and say, but you have a pill to do it. And you say, that is not something that is a wrong. That is a sign that there are a lot of other things going wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't take care of the other things, this ain't going to get better. I know, but you didn't have a pill for all of that.
Yeah, I remember growing up.
Yes.
They used to tell you, take it easy. You have your whole life ahead of you. You don't have to run so fast.
You don't have to run so fast.
Yeah.
No, now at 25, you ain't running at all.
You're looking
You
to retire.
ain't even walking. So you begin to understand that what you have is I wouldn't say a slow deterioration. It's only slow if you look at it in terms of day by day.
Yeah.
But if you look at it in terms of, say, decades,
Yeah.
right? I could look back nearly 8 decades and say, I can see the deterioration where it started from and where it's going to. And it has been very rapid, you know, very, very rapid. You know, you have one of the products that out of which glyphosate came from is a product called Agent Orange.
Yeah.
They use it to defoliate the leaves in Vietnam, the forests, in order to find the Viet Cong and wipe them out. And a lot of the American servicemen got sprayed with it,
Yes.
which mashed them up.
Yes.
And they came back home, and they got married, or some of them was married already, and they had children, and the children grew. And when they reached about between 16 and 20, they suddenly started to do this. I know. When I was training, we had 2 or 3 patients like that. The whole muscle system just started to waste away. And there's absolutely nothing you can do because it altered the DNA of the person. And it didn't only touch the first generation, sometimes it missed the first generation and touched the second generation. And I suppose if we live long enough, we might find out that it might touch the 4th or 5th generation.
It might be
You
part
don't,
of the hereditary now.
yes, you don't hear nothing about it. The sad part of it is that those same derivatives that you're using might have things very similar to that.
Yes.
Already we alter in the gut bacteria. That will have disastrous consequences. No, wrong statement. That is having disastrous consequences. So anyhow, getting back, we're going to
Iodine.
talk about iodine. And you say iodine. What it is. Now, I remember when I was young, in my 16, 17, 18, and you go 8:30 cinema, right? Didn't have no television in them days. You had to go cinema.
Yes.
And you go down the road and you go to see Django or whosoever going on. In them days was Gary Cooper and all of them, right? High Noon and all them kind of films. And you go down and you organize and you're coming up the road from cinema. I used to stop by the Oyster Man.
Yes.
In them days they had oysters that were healthy,
Yes.
right? And you'd have 2 or 3 dozen oysters at 8 cents a dozen, right? And then you'd leave there and you'd go up the road and you'd get a chicken roti, right? With a sea moss. So that's all your iodine high-level live protein, then seaweed with all your trace minerals and all kind of things like that.
You gotta walk around with your eyes closed after that.
So at that point, you never knew anything about iodine because you was eating iodine, right? The Japanese people, by and large, don't know much about iodine because all this sushi and all kind of thing wrapped in seaweed.
Yes.
So it is estimated that they eat at least 12 milligrams iodine every day.
Yeah.
So a lot of the problems that we have with heart conditions and all kind of thing, almost totally non-existent in Japan, right? So first you don't hear about it, and you have a lot of illnesses that are going on that you don't know anything about. Let me give you an idea. In the female population, women starting from about, let's say in the teens, will suddenly get up and find that they have a lump in their breast, right? They get alarmed because people say if you have a lump in your breast, it might be cancer. So they go down to the doctor. The doctor send them for ultrasound or x-ray, and they come back and they say, no, it's just a lump. It's just fibrocystic. What do you do about it? All right, you don't have to do nothing. You know, you go away. Or if it gets bigger, come and see me. That's a travesty. It's a travesty because what that child is suffering, or that woman, is a shortage of iodine. And all he had to do is to say, take this Lugol solution iodine, put 3 drops or 4 drops in the water, right? Take it, and after 5 or 6 months, it would be gone.
Yeah.
You have a goiter. Same thing, right? Unless it get big and you really have to go and take some herbal formulas now to melt it, right? Before you go and cut it. We're not doing any preventative medicine. And what called preventative natural medicine.
Yes.
So I thought I'd go through this thing, and we see where they have different things that
Iodine.
yes.
Yeah.
So for instance, he starts here by saying historically as early as 1911, people took in excess of 300 micrograms of iodine daily without incident. That's 300 milligrams of iodine, right? Now they say 12.5, 13. But they have people who would eat oysters. They consume oysters and mussels and all kinds of things like that. Sit down and eat a big bowl of that. You could imagine how much iodine you're eating there. Mm. So there was a study done in 1948 called the Wolff-Chaikoff effect, where this guy suggested, and apparently it was a badly done study, that if you took more than 2,000 micrograms, which is 2 milligrams a day, that the iodine could make your thyroid run hypothyroid, which is not true. It's never been proven.
Okay.
So where you get that study from is like the guy who went and did this study with coconut oil, and he says coconut oil ain't good, and he did this study with hydrogenated coconut oil. So when all the scientists said, they say, well, where you get hydrogenated coconut oil from? Because you don't buy that in the store, by and large. He can't answer. But if you're setting up the results for something, and you start with the wrong parameters, then you'll get the right result.
So easily oil to start.
Yes, and then to go and do a test to see that it will stick up your arteries, right? So he suggested that the inhibition of the thyroid hormone synthesis may happen. No clinical symptoms of hypothyroidism have ever been noted with the higher doses, according to Dr. Mark Sirkus. So there's 2 people here that they keep mentioning, Dr. Mark Sirkus, and the other one is Guy Abrahams and David Brownstein and Jorge Flechas. These are the guys who are really experts in the use of iodine. And he starts by saying that the upper limit set by the Food and Nutrition Board is 1.1 micrograms, which is 1.1 milligrams per day. And they say that if you have to get rid of goiter and fibrocystic breasts
You need much more than that.
and cysts and fibroids, stop them from starting, you need 3,000 to 6,000. And that is the safe limit. But you have people in Japan who normally daily take more than 12 milligrams, and they're super healthy.
So like 12 milligrams is like 12,000 micrograms.
Yes, no. 12 milligrams is like 120 micrograms.
Okay.
Hmm?
Okay.
So, it's interesting to note when addressing the questions of safe dosage that higher iodine levels had been used in studies since in the early 1900s. For example, in 1917 through to 1922, Dr. David Marine proved that iodine reversed goiter in a study with 2,000 schoolgirls who were given an equivalent of 18.6 milligrams per day. Now, this is in the 1900s.
Yes.
They were curing goiter by just raising, so it's like you're going to tell them, go and buy a Lugol solution of iodine and take 5 or 6 drops every day in a glass of water. And give it a few months and your goiter will melt. They proved that. In fact, in the Midwestern states, they had a goiter epidemic. Because when you're in the Midwestern states, you're not near to the sea. So if the soil don't have iodine in it, you're dead. Right? So they say that 80% of the girls in school between the ages of 14 and 18 had goiters. It was a norm. So they instituted a treatment like this. This is 2,000 schoolgirls here. And they found that after 5 years, nobody had goiters. In other words, everybody corrected. You see, he said, for this case, in this study, for 2.5 years with a dramatic success rate. The study was the reason why the US began to use iodized salt. They also began to use iodized flour. Right? So your flour that came had a certain amount of iodine in it. So it's like just as how you eat your seaweed, it had iodine in it. They put it in the flour. Okay? Beautiful. Today, there are less than 20 to 25% of the salt is iodized. And with the unfounded no salt, low salt scare, they say that salt has raised your blood pressure. I have a research paper saying it's not really salt that has raised your blood pressure so much more than sugar. Right? So even fewer are receiving iodine from iodized salt, which has only about 10% bioavailability in any case. In 1993, or 2003, Dr. L. Zhang showed, and they have an et al. In it to show they have the reference to the scientific paper, showed that potassium iodide reversed lung cancer tumors in mice. Okay. Right? In 1993, Dr. W.R. Gent administered iodine to patients and reversed fibrocystic breast disease with great rates of healing. You can still do it today. I do it. Iodine deficiency is not only associated with fibrocystic breast disease, but also higher rates of breast cancer. If you leave a lump in the breast where the flow of blood is not proper, right?
It will develop.
And you have a yeast problem, which tends to raise your estrogen content in your body, and that estrogen content gets into the breasts and things like that. Then with that lump and that raised estrogen, breast cancer.
Condition.
Right.
Conditions for it to try.
Now, we know that the pesticides and the fungicides create certain enzymes in the body which exacerbates that. In the case of men, it has changed the testosterone into dihydrotestosterone and estrogen, which has caused the prostate to swell up and cause a lot of trouble, and eventually with the excess estrogen inside it, become cancerous. Very simple, very straightforward. Nobody tells you about the pathways where this is happening, Oh, people getting swollen prostate, that's normal for everybody. It wasn't. 50 years ago, it was unheard of. You know what I mean? So that is the kind of thing. It's just like how they say, if you have type 2 diabetes and your mother have type 2 diabetes, right, that it's hereditary. You get it because you
inherit the diet.
You inherit the junk she was eating, all this set of carbon, that's what you inherit. And you're using the wrong oil because that's the oil that you see her using and you start using it. You know. Yeah. And then one of the things I've been watching is, you see, you have people here and they have diabetes. And you ask them, you say, how many brothers and sisters you have? You say, I have 3 sisters and 4 brothers. How many you have living here? You say, no, I have 3 living here. How many of them have diabetes? Right? Well, 3 out of the 4 have diabetes here. Where are the others? They're in Canada or they're in the States. How many have diabetes over there, especially if they're in Canada? None. And they come down for holiday and you talk to them and you find out that they just go and shop in the health food shop. And they just buy this and they just buy that. They don't like to come to Trinidad because they don't get them range of stuff to keep them healthy. And you begin to realize what you had was a whole total retraining.
Changing diet.
As long as you ask questions, you begin to see trends, you begin to see patterns developing. So I tell people, that is utter nonsense. Your great-great-grandmother didn't have type 2 diabetes, it was unheard of. So how come, because your mother have it and you have it, it's hereditary?
And your great-great-grandmother used to use coconut oil.
Yes. Which she used to make herself.
That's right.
And when she finished, she used to leave this little white ball, get brown,
yes.
that you used to snatch up and run outside and eat. Right? Ah, boy. So, in the most significant study called the Iodine Project, undertaken in 1997 through 2005, Dr. Guy Abraham, Dr. David Brownstein, a few books on iodine, Dr. Jorge Fleges, followed 4,000 patients and administered 12.5 to 100 milligrams daily, with 100 milligrams of elemental iodine administered to diabetics, primarily because low thyroid function is associated with type 2 diabetes.
All right, so we see it over the last, we've seen a lot of things that positively affect type 2 diabetes.
Yes. Now, you have to understand, iodine is in every cell. Iodine deals with your fat metabolism. One of the things that happens when you start becoming diabetic is your liver goes fatty. Where does the fat come from? The hydrogenated oil, the LPA, gets inside there and the body can't do nothing with it. It stick there and it start clogging up. It is also go across and help to clog up your pancreas, which you don't hear nothing about at all. You have to go and dig up in the research to find that. And then it is leave and go and plug up your arteries. And another thing they don't tell you about, it is make your heart fatty too. So the fat is built up in between the muscle. Most of the time when people go and the doctor tell them, you have a plugged artery and you need to have a bypass immediately. That is not true. Because where you have the plug, the body just builds small arteries around it. That's how you're alive. If that is plugged up there and you think you'll be dead already. So you have this thing where it builds the arteries around it. And what they do is they go in and they put a stent in there. Right? And when they put a stent in there, the more blood go in. But you still have your plugged heart. So 6 months later, you drop dead. You drop dead because your heart stopped.
Yes, and that's after the doctor take all your savings.
So you see, all these things, you start, you watching it and you say, but this is crazy. Right? Now, if that doctor really knew his stuff, he'd put that person on iodine. Because iodine will increase the thyroid activity. And if he was really better, he would not only get him iodine, he'd say, buy some coconut and juice it. Right? Hard coconut. Make coconut cream. And drink a little bit every day. Why? Because coconut cream and iodine is the ideal food for the thyroid.
Okay.
All right? Once that thyroid starts coming up, all the fat that you have around your body here start wiggling away. You're not hypothyroid, it's just your thyroid working properly rather than low. Your heart pulse which was going, suddenly with the iodine, it's like, power, right? The fat that inside there begins to dissipate. The fat inside your liver begins to dissipate.
Right, and then your circulation will improve.
The fat inside your cell around your mitochondria begins to dissipate. In other words, you begin to slowly get healthy. The operative word is slowly, because it might take you 10, 15, 20 years to get like that. It ain't gonna clean in a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It might take a year and a half to clean back out.
Some persistence.
Bring you back.
Yeah.
You have a case inside there of a woman who come in and she had a sugar reading of some kind of 600 and something. They say, oh, you should be out cold. But she's big and fat. And they take her and they put her on a massive amount of iodine. And within a week they found out that her sugar came right down. So they had to start cutting back on the medicine. They cut back on the medicine, until she wasn't using any medicine, but her sugar stayed down. So they said, this is strange. It means that the thyroid working efficiently literally dropped the sugar.
Yeah.
So they left her on it. She comes back a year later, still taking the high doses of iodine, having lost some 200 and something pounds out of 400 pounds, looking totally different, and still with the sugar running low. You know? So,
so basically the iodine provided a cure for the diabetes.
yes. See? Iodine regulates estrogen production in the ovaries. What do we have at the moment in Trinidad? A whole set of young people with cysts and fibroids and excess estrogen.
And can't get pregnant.
And they say, oh, well, your hormones out of balance are going to put you on birth control, which is synthetic hormones, right? Why does the estrogen balance out? Because we're using antibiotics. And the antibiotics is interfering with the gut bacteria. And when it interferes with the gut bacteria and it kills the good one, yeast takes over. And when that yeast goes down into the vagina and the uterus and the ovaries, it starts to create havoc. One of the things that it does when you're getting close to your periods, it excess estrogen. You make it plenty estrogen. So that is why they say iodine will bring a balance. Besides the fact that the thyroid will be working goodly, iodine is also one of the most powerful antifungals that you have.
Right.
So when you start to take all that iodine, what it does, it starts to kill out all the yeast that you have in your lower system.
And once it's killing the yeast, it have nothing to form lumps.
Yes. Because lumps can only form in your body because of fungus.
That's right.
Anytime you have a lump anywhere in your body, you have fungi.
Right.
You know.
So no fibrocystic.
No fibrocystic breasts, no cysts, no fibroids.
Right.
You know. When you look at the cacophony of errors that are being made and the diseases that are coming up from it, you begin to understand that all we have to do is to step back and get simple.
Yes.
Get back simple. And then we'll understand the pathways that we're making and why these things develop.
True.
You know. So the test that you do for thyroids, when they invented that test in the 1980s, this same guy that they're talking about, Broda Barnes, right? And all the doctors that were associated with iodine and thyroid and things like that wrote to the FDA and says, the assumptions under which you are basing this test are wrong.
Right.
And it will not tell you things. So you could have the thyroid stimulating hormone come up high, and you will see well that person hypothyroid when in actual fact they're not. Or they could have totally looking thyroid readings and they're running hypothyroid. So what they're now saying is that 80% of the people in the United States who do that test are in fact hypothyroid.
Okay.
So you have a massive hypothyroid problem. So you also have a massive cyst problem and fibroid problem and breast problem and cancer problem.
Right. And that is being borne out by the burden on the medical system.
Yes. So we start. Iodine decreases insulin need in diabetics. Iodine and fibrocystic breast diseases. Iodine protects ATP function and enhances the ATP production.
Right. So yes, very essential.
Right. And we just talk about the ATP and swollen hearts and a lot of other muscle problems that you get when that ain't functioning
Right.
properly.
So the same nutrients that you're putting into your ATP cycle, if you get an iodine with that, it's like nitro.
Yes. That is the nitrous oxide that you're putting in your car. When you press that, boom, gone.
Yes.
All right? So he says, in studies involving women and in laboratory animal studies, there's a relationship between low iodine and increased fibrocystic breasts. Now we know that fibrocystic breasts is an adjunct for cancer. Throw in a little yeast in that in the system, and you're almost sure that person going to end up.
And just like the iodine could be used to help prevent the cancer.
Of course, you're going to get down to that point, right? You see, the guy says that if you have lung cancer, one of the things that appear to be very, very deadly against it is iodine, right? Iodine decreases insulin need in diabetics. Dr. Brownstein found that iodine helps decrease insulin need in diabetics when they use 50 to 100 milligrams a day. Most of the time they get off the diabetic medicine. Now that thing will come out in the open,
No,
and when you rush to find Lugal iodine, you can't get it.
yes.
You understand? Iodine helps support protein synthesis. Iodine is essential in thyroid hormone synthesis. If deficient, protein synthesis is disturbed. So if you are hypothyroid, your protein system ain't working properly. Right? Couple that with hydrochloric acid and protease to break down the proteins in the stomach, and you're really in a mess with muscle problems. Right? Thyroid hormones are essential for life, and they activate key chemical reactions including protein synthesis, enzymatic activities, that here you're now going into the liver, right? And functions of target organs such as the development of brain, heart, muscles, pituitary, kidneys.
All right.
Right? Therefore, iodine is important in the development of the fetus. Thyroid hormone regulates mitochondrial protein synthesis. Iodine deficiency causes hormone dysfunction in all bodily hormones. This coincides with the 1954 Doctors Eartley and LeBlanc study in endocrinology showing all pituitary functions are mediated by T4,
All right.
which is the hormone that comes up to gist up the thyroid, suggesting that the thyroid gland and not the pituitary gland is the master gland in the body. You know, they say that everything starts at the pituitary. They're saying no. When you look at the actions in the body, the real gland that has set the pace of the metabolism in the body is not the pituitary.
Yes.
Because the pituitary just depends upon signals from the thyroid in order to set its pace.
All right. I hear you.
You hear me?
But, you know, we're running out of time, but before we go, I was just peeping at this part here.
Iodine makes us smarter.
Yeah, I think the society needs more iodine.
Let me, how much time we have?
5 minutes.
Let's go touch this for a little bit.
All right.
Iodine destroys pathogens, molds, fungi, parasites, and more.
Yeah.
So the next time we come up, we're going to start back right here.
Okay.
Because that whole thing with pathogens and parasites is epidemic.
Yeah.
I have a whole heap of patients who come in and say, I'm tired, I can't do nothing, and every time I eat I'm bloated, and, you know, and I have bouts. And I say, when last you deworm yourself? I ain't even sending nobody for a worm test.
Yeah.
When last you deworm yourself?
We will take this land.